He looked at me and said, "You want to know the secret?" I told him I did. He thought about it for a moment. Then he shook his head. There isn't one. That's the secret. Simon was 105 years old. He had just broken his wrist. He was annoyed about it, the way most people are annoyed about missing a bus. He had been a taxi driver for most of his working life. Night shifts, long routes, passengers who talked too much, and passengers who didn't talk at all. He'd driven through 3 different currencies, 2 recessions, and 1 city that changed its name while he was still driving its street. There was one fare he still talked about, decades later. 3 in the morning, a woman crying in the back seat, no destination given. He drove in circles for 20 minutes, waiting for her to say something. She finally gave him an address on the other side of the city, nowhere near where she'd hailed him. He never asked why, just drove. When they arrived, she pressed extra money into his hand and left without a word. "Not my business why," he told me. "My business was getting her there safely. That's the whole job, if you think about it." He came to us after the fall. Nothing serious, he kept saying. But at 105, the hospital takes it seriously, even if you don't. He had outlived his wife, most of his friends. One enemy he mentioned with a small, satisfied pause. What I noticed about him wasn't his age. It was the quality of his attention. He was interested, not in the way people perform interest, that polite half listening while something else runs underneath. He was actually there in every conversation without reservation. He asked me about my work, what I found hard, what surprised me after all these years. Most patients talk about themselves. Simon asked questions. Once he asked me what I did when a patient died. Not clinically, really asked, waiting for the real answer. Most people flinch away from that question the moment they've asked it, already regretting it. Simon just waited. I asked him what had changed over a century. He tilted his head. "The speed," he said. "Everyone is in a hurry to get to the next thing, but the next thing is just another thing to hurry past. They've forgotten that the driving is the point." There is a Roman philosopher I have come back to again and again since I met Simon, Seneca. He wrote letters to a friend for the last years of his life, not advice on how to succeed, but on how to actually inhabit a life while it's still yours. He wrote, "Dum differtur vita transcurrit." While we are postponing, life passes. Simon had never read Seneca, but he had arrived at the same place. Not through philosophy, through 105 years of paying attention. He told me he had kept working after his wife died, not because he had to, because stopping felt like agreeing with the grief. If I sat still, he said, the silence would have won. People always want the formula. When they heard his age, they asked about diet, sleep, exercise, some supplement they'd read about. Simon was honest in a way that made people uncomfortable. "Luck," he said. "My father was 94. My grandmother was in her 90s. Half of it is what you inherited, not what you chose. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something." A visitor once left him a paperback. Some influencer's morning routine, cold plunges, 17 supplements before breakfast, a chapter on optimizing your mitochondria. Simon read the back cover for exactly as long as it took to be polite, then handed it back to me. "Give this to someone who's afraid," he said. "I'm not afraid. I'm just old. There's a difference, and nobody's selling a book about the second one." He ate eggs fried in butter, meat twice a week, black coffee, occasionally chocolate, occasionally whiskey. He said the most miserable people he had ever known were the ones who turned eating into a religion. They were wretched, he said, and they were not particularly long-lived either. What he did have, and I have seen this in the people who stay the longest, was ritual. Not discipline, ritual. A walk every morning since he turned 70. Music at 7 in the evening. The same argument with his neighbor about football that had been running for 34 years. Unresolved, apparently satisfying. Every Saturday afternoon, same 2 folding chairs, same patch of pavement outside his building. His neighbor insisted a match from 1987 had been decided by a bad offside call. Simon insisted it hadn't. Neither man had new evidence, neither wanted any. It wasn't really about the match. It was the 30 minutes of complaining together, rain or shine, that neither of them would have admitted to needing. He laughed when he listed them. Embarrassingly small things, he said, but they held me here. Seneca said it differently. Nusquam est qui ubique est. He who is everywhere is nowhere. The people who scatter themselves across everything end up inhabiting nothing fully. Simon had driven the same city for 60 years. He knew which roads flooded in March, which cafes were still open at 4 in the morning, which passengers would tip and which wouldn't. He was somewhere, fully. I have thought about this more than I expected to. Not the longevity, the quality of presence. Most of us live slightly to the side of our own lives, waiting for conditions to improve, waiting to feel ready, waiting for the thing we're currently doing to be over so we can get to the thing that matters. Simon didn't wait. He drove. He stayed. He made the small things worth doing, and then he did them. He didn't call it wisdom. He would have laughed at the word. He called it simply not wasting the drive. What is the thing you are currently waiting for permission to begin? The morning before he was discharged, he said something I wasn't expecting. The ones who check out early don't always die first, he said. They just stop showing up to their own life. They start waiting, and the years pass while they're waiting. He picked up his jacket, adjusted the collar, looked at me once. The driving is the point.